Hi, I'm Patty Hodge, and this is Dr. Nurses Rock. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, I ask you please go to my welcome video to see what this is all about. You'll find that in one of the playlists here on the channel. Today's video is a follow-up from my just most recent video called Financial Self-Care. So I'll name this one Financial Self-Care Part 2 because after I published that, I started to think about some of the challenges that people have around money, understanding money, managing money, saving money, and how that might relate to mental health, or how mental health might impact on that, but vice versa. And so there are some things that I want to talk to you about today to help clarify things and help get you on the right track. And recognize that I'm here to support you in your journey to your best life possible. So in this particular video, I'm going to address things like executive functioning, uh, a learning disability that may be impacting on your ability to work with numbers, some other mental health diagnoses that may have an impact on the way that you approach money management, and what you might do to help yourself move forward in a more healthy way and a more productive way and dealing with your finances. So stay with me and let's go through this journey together. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is executive functioning and what does that mean related to life and money in general. So as always, excuse me, I will put links to any resources that I have found that I think might be helpful to you. And that will help you to review this material, not just by listening to this video, but by going online yourself and reviewing what I'm sending to you. Now, as always, it's all about you discerning what's right for you. This is not about me telling you what to do and you running with that. This is about you making decisions that say, oh, that resonates with me. I think there are some resources that Patty talked about. I'm going to check that out and see how I can implement that or not. Okay. So let's talk about the 10 and oh, pardon me, 10 executive functioning skills and why we need them. And I don't think you'll need a big explanation of why we need them. Once you hear what they are, you'll probably figure that out yourself. But the first is planning. So if you are able to make decisions and you have a fully functioning, executive functioning brain, you'd be able to make decisions and think about the future and anticipate tasks and um, make a decision on how to prioritize, right? So planning is number one, organization, which is how you can keep track of your skills and abilities and strategies and routines and all those things that help keep life in order. The third is time management. And you'll see this with people that have some executive functioning challenges, especially people that have um, neurodivergence, okay, or things like ADHD or autism. Working memory, okay, so working memory is a process, your brain's process of storing and manipulating information so that you can tune back into what you know to retrieve it, to make it work for you, to be engaged. Okay. Task initiation, right there. Procrastination is a problem. Or labeling someone lazy because they can't get started. It is part of the executive functioning of the brain. Metacognition is your own capacity to assess your own performance. Okay, it's how you learn. Flexibility refers to your ability to just adjust to new events and circumstances as they present themselves. Self-control, that's a big one in mental health. That's one of the things we really look at a lot, especially with disorders like um, bipolar disorder, where there might be some mania, or impulse control disorders. So we'll look a little bit at that and I'll point you in a direction where you can learn a little more about that. Perseverance is the ability to continue with a task. So you start it and then you may get tired or distracted or whatever. Persevering is part of executive functioning and maintaining attention. So all of those things are really the 10 executive functioning skills. And if you want to learn a little bit more about that, I will have a link below to where I found some of this information and where you might find further information. So next part is, what are some of the problems that people have around money? And the one that comes to mind immediately is this thing called dyscalculia. It's a big fancy word meaning a learning disorder for the inability to learn or comprehend numbers, arithmetic, how to manipulate numbers, perform calculations, learning math facts. And in some circles, it's sort of mislabeled, but it makes sense if you understand that's like the math dyslexia. So it is a learning disorder, and with special treatment and special attention, people can learn to work around it, basically. So that's number one. And the reason I use that as number one is it's hard to deal with money if numbers frighten you or confuse you. So, but we all need some kind of grasp on money in order to have some success in management of our own lives. We all have to pay the rent and buy groceries and pay bills, and it's best to know how to do that for ourselves instead of relying on someone else if we can avoid that. So I have a personal story about that. I was pretty good at arithmetic in my younger years, and then in about sixth grade, where we started to learn uh, algebra and more complicated things, I got sick for a little while. I don't remember exactly what I got sick with, but I do know that I often had chronic bronchitis as a child and would be out of school with that. And when I returned to school, I was completely lost, and I never really regained my ability to understand what they were dealing with in algebra. When we did geometry, I was an ace. So there was something about the way my brain could deal with abstracts or not deal with abstracts and deal with concrete things like measurements. I really can envision things in a much more um, concrete way. It's much easier for me. So, and I have gone through school and back to school and back to school, and I have a doctoral degree. So it doesn't have to hold you back. I did have to take some remedial classes on how to work with those things, with those little handicaps that I have. So let's move on to some mental health problems that might be impacting on your ability to manage a checkbook or manage your cash or manage your savings. And the things that quickly come to mind for me, um, there's something that isn't exactly a mental health disorder, but it is a self-esteem issue, right? And a lot of times when I've talked about adult children of alcoholics and dysfunctional families. A lot of times when there's a lot of trauma in someone's childhood, there's a lot of chaos in the way that they think and the way that they behave until we get a handle on it and start to heal some of that stuff. And a person that talks about here on the internet a lot is this person called Patrick Tahan, Teahan, I believe. I will put a link down here. He has a lot of videos, and he talks about his own struggle with his own money management and life management until he started to get a handle on healing the abuse that he sustained as a child uh, in a dysfunctional home. So that's one thing. Then the disorders that very quickly come to mind for me include anything that impairs your ability to concentrate, your ability to focus, and your ability to think clearly. Okay, so thought disorders like the schizophrenias. Um, Frankly, there are people with schizophrenia who are absolute math wizards. They don't have any difficulty at all knowing how to manipulate numbers and how to keep a checkbook and how. But their thought disorder does get in the way of managing their not only their money but their lives in general when they're in the throes of an acute psychotic episode. They're not thinking clearly, they're not hearing what's going on in a way that makes sense to us as we're watching them. And so when they're in an uncontrolled state of, of schizophrenic thinking, the last thing they may be thinking about is managing their money. When someone has a mania or a hypomania that may or may not accompany things like a depression or bipolar disorder, again, in mania, there's a difficulty dealing with reality sometimes and with having concentration. The brain is going at 100 miles an hour, right? And not necessarily focused on taking care of business. Um, and then the third category in my mind are the what we know to be neurodivergent category, autism, ADHD. Often there's more difficulty managing money. There may be an understanding of how to calculate, and again, not having dyscalculia, but having a difficulty with the executive functioning that's required in order to make money make sense. So, what I would like to offer to you in trying to understand this further, again, links below to some of those disorders. If maybe you think you have those problems, you might want to contact your primary care provider who can put you in touch with someone who can help you with mental health conditions. Or you just might want to find a therapist who, in your area, who knows how to specialize in helping you deal with life skills. Okay, that's a lot of information in a short period of time, but it's just something to start you thinking. So the other thing I thought about after talking about how to save money and why this might be an issue for you, if you're absolutely mentally sound and you don't have any kind of executive functioning issues, but the real issue is a lack of money, that's a different problem altogether, and it is probably one that's more common than all the things that I talked about above, especially in this economy when all of us are so worried about what might be coming next as far as money in this country. So, what I did show you the last time was this savings challenge, this 100 envelope savings challenge that I came across before Christmas just to help my neurodivergent grandchild. And we talked about putting a dollar uh, up to 100, 1 to 100 in envelopes. And at the end, if you, whenever you decided you would do this per paycheck or per week or however you managed to do that, um, you would fill each envelope in the tracker with the number of dollars on that were indicated on the particular envelope. So we talked about going from 1 to 100, and the 100 envelope you would put $100 and $99 in the one before that, and then starting with $1, $2. You can't really see it here. I'm confusing the pages. They're in the binder. It's a little bit hard to see. So let's look at that. See, here we go. This is, oh, again, it's hard to see because it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then on the other side it's 5, 6, 7, 8. So um, sorry about that. That's not a good way to show you that. So we talked about having 100 envelopes with increasing increments of dollars that go into them. And at the end, if you did that particular challenge of dollar bills, 1 to 100, after you filled each envelope with the right increment amount of money, you would have over $5,000. That's a lot of money, and not everybody can put $100 together at any given point. So I decided to make a little chart here, and I called this a savings challenge. Um, this is 3 pages long. I will make this available to you for free um, on Gumroad. I'll put the link down below. And if you can't work with dollar bills, maybe you could work with nickels. So you would do a nickel and 10 cents the next day and 15 the next. And the biggest amount of money that you would have to fill if you were filling 100 envelopes would be $5. So where someone would use the 1 to 100, you're using 5 cents to $5. And if you saved 100 envelopes with $5, 4.95, 4.90, 4.85, 4.80, all of that, in the end you would have $252.50. Well, that's nothing to sneeze at, and that's just with nickels. That would pay a significant bill, or it might even, um, help you build a wardrobe or do something that special that you wanted to do for yourself. So that was with a nickel. The next column is if you did 10 cents in increments of 10 cents. So the biggest amount of money in the number 100 envelope for with increments of 10 would be $10. And at the end of your 100 envelopes, you'd have $505. Well, that's significant too. And what if you only wanted to do quarters? Because you don't have dollars. So again, 100 quarters, $25. Can you manage that? And 24, 20, you know, yeah, these are the increments. I'll send them to you. At the end of that 100 envelope challenge, you would have $1,262.50. So, if you'd like this, just take a look at it and see, you could check off um, the money that you're saving. If you don't want to put it in an envelope, be honest though, get a jar um, and check off when you've put in your right increment for that particular day of the hundreds. And let me know what challenge you would try and what would you do with the cash if you had it at the end. I really would love to know. I'd love to know if this is helpful for you. And the only way I can know is if you tell me. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk to you about, um, and again, this is something that worked for me and may not work for you, and I cannot make any guarantees about this because this involves some level of risk. This is acorns. I'm mentioning this because my CPA, my accountant, recommended this to me years ago. And he said it rounds up your change, or at the end of your expenses, when you've made purchases online or in the store using a card or whatever the account is that you link up to your Acorns account, it will take that spare change that adds up to $1 and it will add it to your account and it will invest it for you. Now, I was fortunate at the time that he told me about it, I was able to start with $100. I now have over $4,000 in that account, and I have not really thought about it. The money came out of, um, as I'm saying, my bank account when they calculated like the roundup change to $1 at the end of a week, I think it was. And then somewhere in there, I decided to invest $5 extra every week, which came out of my regular account. And so for me, it was a useful tool. It's an account that I will not touch unless there is an emergency because there is capital gains attached to that. But that's a more advanced way of making money is investments, which I cannot in any way advise you about, but I can show you what I've learned about that and point you in that direction, and you make a decision whether or not that's right for you. You speak to your financial advisor, you speak to your accountant, and to your significant others, and whoever else is interested in whatever finances you're dealing with. So, thank you for your time and attention. I hope that this was useful to you. I realize this is a little bit longer than most of my videos, but as always, I'm asking you to please help the channel grow. Please subscribe, please like, please share. That helps move the algorithm along so these videos get seen more uh, often in people's feeds. And I really wish you the best of everything. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for being here. Bye.